Recognizing a person by their voice is something we do all the time, and increasingly, voice identification is used as a form of evidence in courtrooms. The Humans and Machines project at York examined how well lay listeners and AI-based technology perform at recognizing unfamiliar voices, with a particular focus on the recognition of voices in courts. In our experiments, we used voice samples of adult male speakers of received pronunciation, as well as the regional accents of Newcastle and Middlesbrough. We created a bespoke computer game to collect data from listeners. The game situated listeners in a jury of the future, with animations depicting a courtroom and a robot judge. Since it isn't possible to test actual jurors in a real court, the experiment is intended to be as immersive as possible, in order to maximise the stakes of the decisions made by our listeners. The use of a game also makes the experience more enjoyable and engaging for participants, hopefully producing more reliable data. Listeners are presented with an interactive dashboard to record their responses. They're firstly given a 10-second voice sample taken from a telephone conversation. They are told the regional accent of the speaker and asked to judge how typical, i.e. how unusual or usual, the voice is relative to other speakers of the same accent. They're then given a second voice sample taken from a mock police interview. The listeners are asked to judge how similar the voice is to the first voice, and then to judge whether they think it's the same person or not. Listeners complete blocks of 8 comparisons before they receive some feedback to let them know how well they've done. And in later levels, when completing comparisons, listeners are also given a conclusion by a forensic phonetics expert, as well as other pieces of forensic evidence in the case. This allows us to see how much listener judgments about the voices are affected by additional sources of information in a case. Our results show that while AI technology may perform better overall at voice recognition, listeners are more sensitive to differences in regional accent. This provides an advantage to listeners, particularly in comparing speakers of different regional accents, even when those accents are relatively similar to each other, for example, Newcastle and Middlesbrough.